All right, my friends, back from Maine, back at a desk. I got butter, lobster, beer pouches right here that I need to work off. I don't really drink anymore. I was hungover at a coffee shop. I made fun of a cool silver haired old man that was writing a book, a manuscript on an iPad with two fingers. Didn't see him, made fun of him in a lighthearted way. He looked up, it was Gabriel Byrne, and I was like, oh, I gotta stick with this tone. I don't want to change because it's a movie star, but we had a great chat about writing and writer's block, and I was able to show him the tattoo on my arm called The War of Art. And I connected him with Steve Pressfield, and he bought the book on the spot with two fingers, and we laughed. And then, perfect divine timing of it all, my wife comes back from the bathroom with my daughter and sees me making fun of Gabriel Byrne, and he's laughing. And she was just like, what the fuck? I leave you alone for 2 minutes in a tiny town in Rockland, Maine, and you're making fun of a movie star. It's a pretty epic moment. So this is a condensed version of a longer career strategy workshop. I started recording it. The ramp was too long, but if you want to watch the whole thing, you can go find it on my Substack page along with the deck and all this information in it. Today, I'm just going to focus on one thing. Hollywood is breaking, but there are still several ways to break in. We're going to cover a few of them. And if you asked any other screenwriter, showrunner, established Hollywood veteran, they would give you a whole different set of paths. So it's important, if you are an up-and-coming writer, to collect as many of those opinions as possible. My job as a creative mentor and big brother to other writers is just to help you Rubik's Cube your career, to look at it from a bunch of different angles, right? To get real honest about who you are, what you want to do, what your superpower is, and making sure you can match your talents to the right path. I made a lot of mistakes in my career, tried a lot of different paths, and I wish I would have just picked one and stuck with it. If anyone wants one-on-one coaching on this specific topic of how to match your talents and projects to the right career strategy, I am offering complimentary Gap Convo sessions on my Calendly. Put the link right here, uppercut, boom, uppercut, boom, right there. And a gap convo is basically like, where are you now? Where are you trying to go? How can we, in 1 hour, bridge that gap together? So please sign up. Anytime I'm kind of building something out new and long term, this new business model I'm working on, I go back into coaching because it helps me reconnect with people, figure out where the collective pain points are, and we can figure this stuff out together. So, are you ready, my little up and coming writer dildo friends? It's time for Big Bro to scare you. I don't want to say straight anymore. It has too much dangerous context. How about inspire you to pick a lane instead of overthinking everything and wasting years of your life sucking up to people you don't like or respect, like I did. So we now operate in a chaotic creative landscape where a Twitter thread can be turned into a movie. Zola, great movie. The Coppola family wants to decentralize movie financing with cryptocurrency, and young filmmakers like Morgan Cooper are rebooting iconic TV shows with $25,000 fan films. In this age of infinite options, it's very common for us storytellers to get stuck at step one. Which path do you put your career and your projects on? And the end goal for all of us is a well-resourced, well-cast production with a marketing and distribution plan in place and an excellent writer's room. But there's a multitude of ways to get there. Do you go the IP route? Write a graphic novel like Snowpiercer, hoping that a visionary director falls in love with your world and adapts it into a movie and a series? Do you go the podcast route? Find a new media partner like Wondery to help you rack up millions of listens before you go try to sell the rights to a limited series? Or do you do what I did? Do you get in and play the relationship game and try to find that one internal champion who's willing to stake their entire career on your concept and creativity, and then fight for it every step of the way? That's kind of what we did with Workaholics. Is we created a proof of concept, and two junior development executives championed us and fast-tracked us through development. That's how we were able to get a show on as idiot 26-year-olds. So here we go. Path number one, the pray hard and get lucky path. So this just means you're doing it like everyone else is doing it, and you're hoping to get picked out of a pile. You create your portfolio. You get really good at story structure. You have a good, diverse array of scripts. You apply to fellowships. You get into a fellowship, you get agents, you get managers, they read your stuff, they submit it, You get generals, someone falls in love with your writing style, gives you a job as a staff writer, you work your way up the staff writing ladder to a position of influence and power, and then you can become a chieftain on one of your own projects, right? This is a big gamble. It works and it's a solid path, but it requires you to get lucky, to win the creative lottery in Hollywood. But it can be done. I have a lot of friends that have done this. Brian Chamberlain is a huge in-demand showrunner who did this. I can't remember what fellowship he was in, but he did fellowship, staff writing on great shows, and now he's a huge showrunner. When I was running the HBO fellowship, I had 6 up-and-coming writers in my cohort of about 21, the full class, and I think every single one of those writers is either repped at CAA on an overall deal or staff writing on a big show right now. So it works, but getting over that initial hurdle, getting picked out of a pile, requires a lot of prayers. So that's number 1. Do it like everyone else is doing it. It still works. Number 2 is the Shiva Baby Thunder Road Foot Fist Way. Back in the early 2000s, Jody Hill and Danny McBride had almost given up on Hollywood. They were working lowly production assistant jobs like I did. They could not find a path to break into the game. So they moved back to North Carolina, where they met in college, to make a $79,000 micro-budget feature about a Taekwondo instructor with a dojo in a strip mall, The Foot Fist Way. Any of you younger writers haven't watched this yet, it's the project Squirrel. Hi, Squirrel. Wish I had my BB gun. Foot Fist Way is an excellent film, and it really just shows you what you can do with talent. And they knew Danny's brash acting style was lightning in a bottle, ready to be unleashed on the world of comedy, but they also knew they would never be discovered on their scripts alone. So they built a pirate ship based on their easily repeatable talents, Danny's just comedy delivery style, and they raised their own pirate flag instead. Watch this. This is us. This is what we can do with $79,000. Who wants to back us for the next one? Then, of course, Will Ferrell and Adam McKay saw their little pirate ship and folded them right into their comedy armada. The rest is history. So do you have someone in your life that is lightning in a bottle? Remember, you have a better chance at making one of your talented friends famous than you do getting an A-lister attached to one of your scripts. All young writers make that mistake. They custom tailor one of their ideas to a very established star, but they don't realize how insulated those stars are with their own writers, directors, reps, and executives. It's almost impossible to get one of those projects to them. If Jody and Danny had tried to get Will Ferrell to play the lead of Foot Fist Way with the exact same script, they still might be trying to make their first feature film. Don't do it. Find a talented friend that just needs the right vehicle and build something for them. Jim Cummings, the lead actor and director of Thunder Road, did the exact same thing with a $200,000 budget. He could not get cast in anything as an up-and-coming actor, so he built a custom vehicle to show off his unique acting style. Now, a few movies later, he's one of the indie darlings like the Duplass brothers, and he's probably got people lining up to finance his films. If you go this route, your micro-budget feature needs to have 3 things. A fucking fantastic, buzzworthy hook. We'll get into story hooks in the bigger workshop and the importance of them and how they help you stand out in this crowded marketplace. Number 2, you need an actor, actress, or comedian that is attached, that is so talented and charismatic that you are willing to bet your life savings on them because there's a good chance that's what ends up happening with you or your investors. And number 3, you need a line producer or an established indie producer who can comb through every grain of sand in your script to help you limit the amount of locations, characters, stunts, and production nightmares like kids, cars, and animals. My buddy Al Madrigal has a great quote about this. He got a note on one of his scripts saying, "You need to turn all your helicopters into vans." I love that. It's just a good mantra when you're making contained, smaller stories. Don't even put vans in them, actually. So if you as a writer, right now, if you can't make 4 to 5 talented actors and characters and a few locations interesting, then you probably need to keep writing or try a different concept. Like, that's how we should all be starting. A contained Blumhouse style film, 1 to 2 locations that has a really good hook and really talented people. Hopefully you can get one big name. Also, another one to check out on this path would be Last Stop in Yuma County. More expensive than the others, but only $1 million crime thriller that was all shot in one location, starring Jim Cummings. It's a great film. And that investor sold his house and backed that film, and it worked out, which is insane. Now, I think that director, I can't remember his name, is doing the new Evil Dead remake. So, again, investor sold his house, backed that director. They got Jim Cummings. They made this film. They bet their life savings on a really good project. Number 3, the world builder. The I am not okay with this route. Maybe your concepts are too big or too complex for a DIY web series or a micro budget feature, and you want to build more detailed, genre blending worlds. And you might want to go the intellectual property route, like Charles Forsman, who wrote the comics, which then became the end of the fucking world, and I am not okay with this. One thing I can tell you from my experience with 100% certainty is you cannot sell a franchise without a fan base. No buyer, no studio, no streamer will give you $100 million to adapt a 100-page PDF that's only been seen on your laptop. Trust me, I spent my early 30s trying to sell big ideas after I'd sold the show. It was a massive waste of time. I've tried and failed many times. My more talented writer friends have tried and failed many times. It's not worth doing. Anything that's blending genres and needs a sizable budget has to build up a fan base first. But here's the crazy good part. You don't need to become a bestseller. You only need a few thousand diehard fans to drastically improve your odds for a development deal. So back to Charles Forsman. He's an East Coast-based writer, an illustrator, and he's going to be our IP case study. He came out to Los Angeles in his early 20s, slept on his brother's couch, but he could not figure out a way to break into the writing game. So he moved back to the East Coast and enrolled in the Center for Cartoon Studies, which just sounds fucking awesome, that there's a whole school for cartoons. A few years later, he was winning awards for his alt comics, and directors were emailing him about acquiring the rights to his intellectual properties. And when you hear Charles interviewed, it's easy to understand why it was a tough sell for him to make it in Hollywood as a younger writer. He's very sweet, thoughtful, and pretty introverted. Not the best qualities to survive in this cutthroat business full of sharks. So instead of trying to break in, he focused all of his time and energy on building worlds. Then he was ushered into Hollywood by more established veterans like Sean Levy. So if you are a more introverted writer, going the IP route is a great path for you. Focus all of your time on writing and releasing IP, and eventually, hopefully, the right partner will find you. Then let them deal with the gatekeepers. Let them be your guide into the maze of madness. I Am Not Okay With This sold to Netflix with a simple pitch. It's Lady Bird meets X-Men. Boom, done. Here's Sophia Lillis and a check. I've tried to pitch and sell big ideas that blend genres, and all I have to show for it is a long list of dead-end development deals and lots of free Diet Cokes sipped in fancy boardrooms overlooking the smog of Los Angeles. Sometimes they have trail mix too, which is nice. Charles, on the other hand, never stopped putting projects out to the world, and now he has a long list of sellable IP, and most importantly, what we're all after, the Holy Grail, a sustainable creative career. Now let's do some bullet points, references in this space, just stuff for you to look up. And again, the deck will be on my Substack. Look up Brian K. Vaughan, a graphic novelist with a long list of IP being adapted. Look up Image Comics, the imprint that published Saga, The Walking Dead, Kick-Ass. It's creator owned, and it allows the creators to retain all of the rights to their IP. Look up Be the Monkey, conversation about the new world of publishing with Barry Eisler and Joe Conrath. Barry's a real spy turned spy thriller writer, and him and his buddy Joe have a great conversation. You can see this on a PDF about the pros and cons of self versus legacy publishings. It really will help you frame the debate. And there is pros and cons to both. Quick book recs. Read Thrill Me by Benjamin Percy. The Story Grid by Sean Coyne, How to Write a Book That People Will Read, and a new one I just found that I've been talking to, Storyverse. It's kind of a new startup making interactive graphic novels and animated shorts. So that list will be on Substack. Number 4, From Earholes to Eyeballs, Dirty Johns and Billy Balls. I also haven't figured out my microphone style. My double hand, single hand, side hand. I'm going double hand today. My big Meat Paws. So when I started after the 2008 writer's strike, sketch groups and indie filmmakers were very active on YouTube and Funny or Die, and they were the ones getting the development deals because that's where the eyeballs and the attention and the clicks were. But now podcasters are getting those development deals because the podcast user base is just so much bigger. And here's the crazy part. Podcasts like Dirty John on Wondery Media racked up 50 million listens, but only had 1.3 million per episode views on Bravo. So just think about that. The podcast was a massive success, but probably did not make the creator, Chris Goffard, I think, probably didn't make that much money. The TV show was not that successful, but the creator probably made a good chunk of money on his producer creator fee. As writers, how the fuck do we make sense of that? Do you go after ear holes or eyeballs? One might pay your bills, but the other might launch your career. So if you have a true story or a personal story that just needs a little seed capital to get going, you can hold off on pitching production companies first and instead go after a podcast company like Gimlet, Earwolf, Radiotopia, Crooked Media, Pushkin Industries, HeadGum, Wondery. There's a million. You don't make fuck you money writing and producing podcasts. I made a few, but you do get enough of a budget to make a quality product that can be leveraged into a bigger deal. My other friend, Io Tillett Wright, just completed this ear holes to eyeballs path. And it all started with a great hook. Io's mom's boyfriend was a New York musician named Billy Balls. He was murdered in the 1980s, and the mystery went unsolved. So Io assembled a pitch, got Crimetown Presents on board, and set out to solve the mystery on his own. Billy Balls made it to the best of a bunch of podcast lists and then got swooped up by FX and John Hamm. Pretty cool. So how do you know if your idea should start as a podcast instead of a screenplay? Well, if you have a personal connection to the story, like The Shrink Next Door, if you're setting up an anthology format like Song Exploder or Lore. The anthology formats are very difficult to sell in TV. Buyers prefer one host or recurring cast members to help you build a relationship with the audience. If your specialty as a writer is characters and dialogue, go with the screenplay. If your specialty as a writer is detailed plotting, obsessive research, maybe a podcast is right for you. Scripted podcasts like Homecoming, Limetown, Welcome to Night Vale, or Audible Originals, Sea in the Sky, We Are Legion have done well, but the traditional publishing route is still the best option to sell a very big world. Okay, number 5, the spec boot path. This is such a reality now, and I do not see enough young up-and-coming writers choosing to do this. So there's a young guy who's now a huge director, Morgan Cooper, who grew up watching The Fresh Prince of Bel-Air and realized, yes, I could make a bunch of original ideas and try to get, some traction on those, or I can just remake something I love and put my unique stink on it. Spin, taste, tone, whatever you want to call it. So Morgan Cooper took out a $25,000 loan, created a reboot, reimagining of a new version of The Fresh Prince of Bel-Air with slightly different style and tone. He put it up on Vimeo. It ended up getting a lot of hits, but at first, it just got a decent amount of hits. But one of those hits was someone who was connected to Will Smith. That film got sent to Will Smith. And then weeks later, meetings were being had. Morgan was signing at agencies and things were in development. So a lot of times as writing instructors, we tell writers to write what you know. And that is true if you're going after emotional impact and authenticity. But if you want to make it in Hollywood, emotional impact and authenticity aren't as important as you think. So you also have to write what other people know in a cool new way. Just go back through the catalog of your childhood favorites, of your teenage favorites. It's okay if it's something that's already being rebooted. It just shows executives that you can take a pre-existing idea, put a cool spin on it, and execute something cool. I don't see enough of this in portfolios, and it's just a simple way to give yourself a better chance at getting a job in this new reboot economy. And again, if you watch the full version of the workshop, I break this down in probably too much detail. Here's one number to just hammer into your head. 10% of the ideas in development right now are original ideas. The other 90% are reimaginings, reboots, sequels, spin-offs, pre-existing IP. So we're already playing this Hunger game of tens of thousands of us fighting for a few slots, staff writing jobs and development deals. It's almost better to just accept this new reality, this new landscape, and just go right into the spec boot path. Just show them that you can execute an idea that they already own in a cool way. Number 6, the Trojan horse method. How Donald Glover tricked FX into buying this show. I use this all the time when I was writing. And it's just like, it just doesn't get any cooler than Donald Glover. The guy's a modern day Midas. Everything he touches is just pure excellence. So most writers are great storytellers, but not good strategists. We try to use our intellects to impress all of these gatekeepers, but gatekeepers, most of them, don't want to speak in absolutes, most of them are not intellectual people. They don't think like we do. They have one job. What is cool right now, and how can I take credit for finding it so I can get a better job at another company just like the company I'm working at? So, helps to think about hiding our real intentions inside of an extremely simplified package that tricks the gatekeepers, aka the Trojan horse method. Donald Glover was established enough in Hollywood that he knew this. When he created Atlanta, the goal from day one was to make Twin Peaks for Black folks. But he also knew FX would not buy that pitch. So he went in and said, I want to make a show with my friends about rappers trying to make it in Atlanta. Once they let the show get into the gates, he opened that trapdoor in the Trojan horse and let out his real plan, a surreal exploration of the South. Same strategy with Genji Cohen and Orange is the New Black. Piper, the innocent white girl, was the Trojan horse for that series, but the real plan was to explore the backstories of all the other inmates, like Crazy Eyes. But the show was sold on pitching gatekeepers with a simple question. What would happen if someone like you went to jail? Another example is Search Party. The showrunner, Christina, I've met a few times. She's great. They baited us with a murder mystery that got us to invest in that world and those characters. And then they turned the show into an insane sci-fi satire about the millennial mindset. If they would have gone in and pitched the arc of that show, they might have been laughed out of the room. So too many of us writers try to be too clever with our hooks, with our themes, with our devices. We want to look and sound smart, but it doesn't work with the people you are pitching. They are scared, nervous, and chasing trends. So it's better to make the gatekeepers that you're pitching feel safe and cool, not dumb or scared. Okay, path number 7, lucky number 7, the high maintenance path. If Janky Clown Productions, aka Ben Sinclair, Katja Blichfeld, and Russell Gregory, I think that's their names, had pitched a pilot script featuring the exact same format, they would have been turned down by every network. You cannot have a main character not be the main character pitched to executives. So instead, they did 2 important things. They shot a web series to establish their unique tone and voice, and they proved that unique format worked by making 2 seasons of the web series, and they got super fans like me to help them fund the 2nd season. If you turn in a perfectly executed original script with a unique format without a proof of concept, those executives are going to fuck your story up. They don't know any better. It's not their fault. And they will try to make it just like everything else so they're not so afraid. The high maintenance trio did not want to wait for someone to take a chance on them and their unique idea. And they had a plethora of actors and crew members in their personal network who were all willing to work for free or reduced rate or deferred payments because they all believed in the idea and its creators. Like, that is an infectious, powerful quality to have in this chaotic era. Just a vision that can help build a little creative tribe. A lot of people do not have it, and a lot of people just want to be part of something cool and fun, and they will join you and they will help, but you have to have the vision and know the steps. It worked for them, and most of the cast and crew ended up making the journey with them from Vimeo to HBO. So do not try to convince executives to buy into a unique vision. Establish your tone or format first with a proof of concept. Show them what you can do on a small budget and then ask for funds to scale it up in a slightly bigger, better way. We did the same thing with Workaholics, The Tone, and so did the creators of Rick and Morty, Portlandia, Drunk History, Insecure, Adam Ruins Everything, and Broad City. Like, we all know this path. It's one of the most ubiquitous ones. Unfortunately, it was less common when I started and you could still stand out. Now it's completely The digital landscape is completely oversaturated with short films and proof of concepts and web series. So again, this is almost its own pray hard and get lucky path. But what it does, and you'll hear me talk about this a lot, with all forms of storytelling and creativity, there's subjective and objective elements, right? The objective elements are your structure, the format, the things that are kind of the more technical parts and execution of your story. The subjective elements are the kind of tone and style. But when you have a proof of concept and you prove that it's resonating with fans, the executives cannot give shitty notes that fuck your story up. They saw that format work. They saw a weed delivery guy being the connective tissue to all of these characters in New York, and they understood it. They understood how it was different and why it was working. They wouldn't have gotten there without showing those executives. So those are the 7 paths. Again, go talk to a bunch of different people. I had many, many people when I was going to school in LA stand in front of me in a classroom and say, don't do this unless you really love it. And again, I was one of those young idiots that stared right back at him and said, that's for you, not for me. I'll be the anomaly. I will figure this out. And I kind of did, and I kind of didn't. So there's still ways to break in, and everyone's ringing the alarm bells about the state of Hollywood, and there's some really hard stuff going on, and it's getting harder and harder to build a sustainable career in that system. But if you are like me and you're stubborn and you're going to go for it either way, then please consider one of those 7 paths. So, final thought. The next generation of storytellers needs to abandon the I hope I get picked out of a pile mindset, and you need to embrace the pioneer mindset. There are less shows, less jobs, less movies being made, less fellowships, but at the same time, there are a plethora of new formats and opportunities. The future doesn't belong to cogs in the machine. You want to be a cog in the machine, do the pray hard, get lucky path, get in, make a bunch of remakes, make your money, buy a house in the hills. God bless you. But for anyone that wants to make original stories, we have to become inventors, explorers, garage tinkerers, and experimenters. How we receive stories is going to change. They're going to get much more interactive and immersive. Sadly, I don't know if this is true or not, but the movie has a good chance of going the way of the sculpture or the opera. Like, it just might be an art form that has its heyday and then slowly fades out. Going to the movies is almost like going to a concert now. You go a few times a year, but embrace the tools of our times. There's no denying that all of this AI, VR, AR stuff is going to change everything. So, last thing, I want you to think of Hollywood as an uber rich, highly dysfunctional friend. They might invite you to an all expenses paid trip someday, but until then, you have to learn how to have fun, be cool, and make cool shit on a shoestring budget. I would get your portfolio in shape, have 3 to 5 things that you really love that you can really stand on and be proud of, master story structure so you can win objective, creative arguments, and then I would spend 80% of your time tinkering, experimenting with all these new forms of IP. But if you're stubborn like me and you don't want to do any of that and you just want to break into Hollywood, then pick one of those paths and good luck to you. And if anyone wants to continue a conversation with me, you can book a complimentary Gap Combo session, Calendly here. So jump on it now. Don't give up. Keep at it. Talk to friends. Get into support groups full of other writers. If they're taking writers' rooms away from us, then we have to turn writers' rooms into support groups where you're not all just working on one project, but you're helping each other workshop your career strategies together, right? The answers are out there. The market is consolidating and changing, and it will turn into something new. It's always a compromise. Things will get worse and better at the same time. Keep working on your stuff. Keep drilling down on your themes, the things that you explore in all of your stories. There's going to be a lot of opportunities in the future in all of these new formats. Just get good at telling good fucking stories. We need them because the stuff that's coming out now is just, that ain't it. So stay at it. Give us what you got. Love ya. Bye. Boom.